Before reality TV and viral TikTok challenges, there was the game show, a genre built on quick thinking, luck, intelligence, and a little showmanship. From Wheel of Fortune to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, just a handful of these concepts have stood the test of time, but none have blended intellect and entertainment quite like Jeopardy! During each episode, 3 contestants compete against each other by solving clues of varying difficulty across different categories. These clues are all written as answers, while the fastest person to buzz in responds in the form of a question, such as who is or what is. All of the clue categories are revealed at the beginning of each round and can cover a wide array of subjects. Past topics have ranged from famous last words to Cold War culture to the emoji category. Jeopardy is unique in that it's always celebrated intelligence, skill, and strategy, and for the majority of its many seasons, host Alex Trebek has been at the helm. However, in November 2020, Trebek passed away at the age of 80 after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. For many who are diehard fans of Jeopardy, Trebek's talent for hosting was unrivaled and was a big part of what made the show so special.
There are some people who simply were perfect for television in that even though they were being watched by millions and millions and millions of people completely anonymously, they gave a sense that they were talking to you directly, an intimacy like you were, watching them from across the backyard fence as opposed to a television. I think Johnny Carson had this. I think Mr. Rogers had this. Oprah Winfrey certainly had it. And I think Trebek had it as well.
That's Robert Thompson, a professor of television and popular culture at Syracuse University. He remembers Trebek as someone who was able to bring a rare mix of talent, warmth, and seriousness to the role, a balance that few hosts can ever achieve.
There was a sense that people really felt they knew Alex Trebek. And what was interesting, too, is they knew him and they liked him. And this was interesting with Jeopardy because, let's face it, Trebek had a certain degree of pretentiousness. He had a certain degree of being a Mr. Know-it-all. But he managed to be a smart guy that we liked. Oftentimes, we respond very bad to people who are putting on airs of being smart. When you're in school, if you're a smart guy, you tend to get your lunch money stolen. With Trebek, we didn't want to steal his lunch money. We wanted to have lunch with him. He could be both this semi-pretentious Mr. Know-it-all, he's got all the answers kind of guy, but at the same time do it in a way that we respected and that we liked and that didn't put us off or didn't seem elitist, even though he really was a kind of elite sort of guy.
Trebek checked all of the boxes for leading Jeopardy! He had the finesse, charm, and quick thinking that made his role look so effortless and easy. Not many people actually know that there was one other host before Trebek, American actor Art Fleming. He first led Jeopardy! When it came on the air in 1964 and hosted until 1975 when it was canceled. Trebek then took over in 1984 when the show bounced back.
He was the Jeopardy! Host that I grew up with as a kid when I would be staying home from school sick and my mom would bring in the portable television set. It was Art Fleming that I watched on Jeopardy! And I remember when Trebek took over, there was a while in which I thought, what's this guy doing this show? This is supposed to be Art Fleming. It took a year or two before I grudgingly began to admit how really, really perfect Alex Trebek was for that role. But Art Fleming also, from the very beginning of Jeopardy! Was a slightly different kind of game show host. He did have a more, a little more gravitas, a little more seriousness to him. There wasn't quite the kind of crazy, created in the lab game show host kind of feel to him. And, of course, game show hosts throughout, we've had those kind of the Peter Marshalls, the Wink Martindales, the Bob Eubanks, that almost have a certain type to them, which is easy to burlesque, easy to make fun of. Jeopardy! Kind of steered away from that.
When Art Fleming first hosted Jeopardy! In the 1960s and 70s, the series drew a loyal audience, but it wasn't a massive hit. That changed with Alex Trebek. His calm confidence and sharp humor helped turn the half-hour broadcast from simple trivia into must-watch TV. And as his fame grew, Trebek became a pop culture figure in his own right. making memorable several guest appearances on sitcoms and talk shows.
He was a voice on The Simpsons, one of the coolest things that anybody can get the opportunity to do, one of the greatest shows in American television history. He also appeared, I think, on Baywatch, one of the not greatest television shows in the history of American TV. The X-Files. I mean, he would pop up in all kinds of interesting places.
Another gig Trebek once said yes to? He was asked to moderate a debate in the race for Pennsylvania governor, but that appearance didn't go so smoothly.
It didn't work very well. Many more people saw that than would have otherwise seen state office debate. And Alex himself kind of apologized for it afterwards. And the fact is, he talked too much. I think somebody made the measurement that he talked 41% of the time that debate was going, which is unusual in that if that was the problem in the debate, that was never the problem in Jeopardy. He had those conversations with people after that first break when he got to know them and everything, and he would make his little comments, sometimes a little snide, as the answers went on. But there was never the sense that he was inserting himself too much into the process. He really realized, he said this many times, that the success of that show was the contestants that they got. And he was right about that. He was only half right because it was the contestants and how Alex managed to bring them out in interesting ways.
The success of the show in the era of Trebek is clear. Another big moment was in January of 2020 when Jeopardy hosted the Greatest of All Time series. These highly anticipated episodes brought back popular contestants like Ken Jennings and James Holzhauer. The limited championship run garnered more than 15 million viewers and surpassed viewership for that year's NBA Finals. For longtime fans, watching the best contestants go head-to-head was peak TV. One Jeopardy superfan is Daniela Regencia, who grew up watching and loving the show. In September of 2020, her own dream came true when she finally made it through the many auditions and was able to compete on the main stage. Looking back, she remembers the day that she got the green light from Jeopardy producers.
I was shaking when I got the call and after. I could not believe it was happening. I thought it was a prank. I had to Google the person who called me just to make sure that I wasn't getting scammed or something. But no, I was not getting scammed, and it was super exciting.
Regencia says because production tapes 5 episodes of Jeopardy in the same day, much of the time is spent waiting around and watching others compete until you're called up to bat.
I didn't film my episode until the 3rd one, and then Alex Trebek walks out. And I think all of us contestants, the first time we saw him, were just oh my goodness, you could kind of feel some excitement and anxiety. In my day of filming, the person I saw who did the best was a fighter pilot because, that's his bread and butter.
The spotlight and pressure of it all definitely plays a role. Sadly, she didn't win her episode, but she'll always remember being able to see Trebek in action during his final months on the show.
What I didn't know before going in was that there's nothing scripted about what he does. He has the question and answer on a large sheet in front of him, but everything in between, the intro to the show, the coming back from the commercials, his conversations with the contestants, no one is feeding him any lines. They don't even know where he's going to stand or how long he's going to talk for. They're all just kind of operating around him and what he's going to do, which I never knew that before going onto the show.
Regencia also remembers Trebek's subtle sass as a host. He wasn't afraid to show his emotions and speak his mind.
You could tell when he thought your answer was particularly bad, or if he thought you were kind of a little eccentric, or he would make his little comments in the episodes when he would ask people for their stories, and he would make his little comments when people gave answers. He was witty, a little snarky, but overall just seemed like a nice guy. And, he always said that he loved his job because he gets to spend all this time with really smart people.
Trebek's career legacy is Jeopardy! Under his direction, the show's popularity rose to new heights and cemented its place as one of the best game shows of all time. Thompson argues that only one other trivia game show really stacks up in comparison.
If you were going to say of the last half century, what are the 2 game shows that really transcended the genre? It would be Jeopardy and it would be Trebek, but it would also be Millionaire and Regis. That just didn't go as long. I remember the summer of '99 moving into that fall when it was on 7 days a week for those chunks. And you could not go into a diner or a gas station without hearing someone say, "Is that your final answer?" I mean, that everybody was talking about that. That seldom happens with a television show.
However, the popularity of Philbin's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire lasted just a handful of years. The rise and fall of some U.S. series like Millionaire highlights just how important it is to have the right leader. So what led producers to pick Jeopardy contestant Ken Jennings as the next host?
It was almost like Jennings was the surrogate son of Trebek and had his blessing. Jennings was like Trebek 2.0. And we found out when that Holzhauer guy were doing the rounds of the media during the Greatest of All Time tournament that Ken Jennings was actually telegenic. He was good on camera. He could deliver a joke. So I think probably he was the natural, perfect choice. The advantage is that everybody who is a Jeopardy fan will already know Ken Jennings in a Jeopardy context.
Jennings officially took over as permanent host in December of 2023 and has since earned praise for his straightforward, smart demeanor and deep knowledge of the game. However, some longtime fans feel that his delivery and cadence lack the effortless authority Trebek had. Still, ratings have remained steady, and Jeopardy is now in its 42nd season this year. To kick off the new season this past fall, the show has introduced a refreshed studio design and a rise in sponsored clue categories. These are paid segments within the gameplay where brands or celebrities present clues tied to upcoming projects. However, producers maintain that the heart of the show remains the same, and Jennings' steady and familiar presence has helped bridge that tension between tradition and modernization as the game show continues evolving in today's packed TV landscape. To learn more about Jeopardy and Alex Trebek, visit Jeopardy.com. You can also learn more about both of our guests, Professor Robert Thompson and Dinella Regencia, at viewpointsradio.org. This segment was written by our executive producer, Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Gary Price.